Okay, welcome back in. Now I'm going to be reviewing all of Thursday's action from the NHL. There were 12 games on tap, so a lot of games to look at and review. Starting with two teams in the Atlantic Division as the Montreal Canadiens went into Florida to take on the Panthers. This was a tight contest, and I just want to say this before I look over the team scoring and such, that if the Habs had played this way throughout the entire season, this might be a totally different outlook, and they might be competing or further up in the standings. But obviously, you can't have the same consistency day in and day out, especially with players being scratched or injured. But yeah, just they had a lot of fire, and it's just too damn bad that we couldn't see more of it throughout the season. So Barkov, who's been a Habs killer, would kick things off for the Panthers in the first 7 minutes and 1 second into the frame, getting his 14th goal of the season from Reinhart and Verhaeghe. Nick Suzuki would score a minute and 13 seconds after that, tying the game up at 1, getting his 24th of the season, assisted by Arber Xhekaj and David Savard. After 20 minutes of play, there were 2 goals, 1 apiece. In the second period, Sam Reinhart would get his 40th goal of the season, giving the Panthers a 2-1 lead with 5 minutes and 52 seconds remaining, assisted by Tkachuk and Barkov. With just under a second to go, Slafkovsky would tie the game up, assisted by Nick Suzuki off the face-off. So a very critical goal at that point, tying the game up at 2 after 40 minutes of play. In the third period, Newhook would give the Habs a 3-2 lead, his 9th of the season from Caulfield and Suzuki, a power play goal, 3 minutes and 27 seconds into that frame. And despite the fact that the Habs had a power play, Sam Reinhart would actually get a shorthanded goal for the Panthers, getting his second goal of the game, his 41st of the season, assisted by none other than Barkov, tying the game up at 3. It would take extra time to decide a winner in this one. Unfortunately, it couldn't be decided in a overtime. So it's a shootout. Had to decide a winner in this one, and Lundell was the winner. So he got the game-winning goal for the Florida Panthers. So 4-3 would be the final score in this one. So with the victory, the Panthers are sitting at 40, 16, and 4, first in the Atlantic Division. And as for my precious Habs, a very long season continues. Can't end soon enough. 23, 28, and 9. All right, the next matchup took place in Boston. We had the Bruins playing host to the Vegas Golden Knights. Okay, let's take a look and see how this game went. So in the first, Morgan Geekie would kick things off for the Bruins. 5 minutes and 26 seconds to go in the frame, getting his 11th goal of the year, assisted by Frederick. Boqvist would increase lead to 2-0, 30 seconds after that, getting his 4th of the year from Lacko and Shattenkirk. Geekie would then get his second goal of the game, his 12th of the season from Pastrnak and Heinen, and that goal happened with 3 minutes and 6 seconds to go. So in a span of 2 minutes and 20 seconds, the Bruins managed to get 3 straight goals. So 3-0 in favor of Boston after 20 minutes of play. Cotter would finally get the Vegas Golden Knights on the board a minute and 48 seconds into the second period, getting his 7th goal of the season from Nick Waugh and Shea Theodore. Pietrangelo would cut the deficit to 3-2, 6 minutes and 57 seconds into the frame, recording his 4th goal of the season from Marchessault and Brissonant, if I'm pronouncing that name correctly. Geekie would then get a natural hat trick, getting his 3rd of the game, his 13th of the season from Pastrnak and Grizzljic, with 3 minutes and 28 seconds to go in the period, making it 4-2 in favor of the Bruins. Amadio would cut the deficit to 4-3, getting his 11th goal of the season from Stevenson and McNabb, and that goal happened with 2 minutes and 14 seconds to go. So after 40 minutes of play, the Bruins had a 4-3 lead. Chandler Stevenson would tie the game up on a short-handed goal, getting his 13th of the season from Zach Whitecloud, 5 minutes and 1 second into the frame. And then when the Bruins had a late power play, Lowry would give them a 5-4 lead, ended up being the game-winning goal. That would be his 4th of the season from Shattenkirk and Charlie Coyle. And that goal happened with 4 minutes and 37 seconds to go in the frame. So they had a 3-0 lead, almost blew it, had a 4-3 lead, and on again. The game got tied up, but thanks to a late power play goal, the Bruins managed to secure a 5-4 win. So with the victory, the Bruins are sitting at 35-12-4, second in the Atlantic Division, and despite the loss, the Vegas Golden Knights are 33-20-7. They are also second in their respective division. All right, now we're off to the Metropolitan Division, where we have the Carolina Hurricanes, and they went into Ohio to take on the Blue Jackets. All right, let's take a look and see who won in this matchup. So there's no scoring in the first. We have to jump ahead to the second period, where Teravainen will get his 18th goal of the season just 53 seconds into that second period, making it 1-0 in favor of the Hurricanes. Sebastian Aho would score 8 minutes and 19 seconds in that same period, getting his 23rd of the season from Shea and Pesky. Sillinger would finally get the Blue Jackets on the board roughly halfway through that period, getting his 10th of the season from Werenski and Alex Nylander, I believe. Brady Shea would increase the lead to 3-1 for the Carolina Hurricanes with 3.5 minutes to go. Sorry, with 3.5 minutes to go. That would be his 8th of the season from Kotkaniemi and Brent Burns. After 40 minutes of play, it was 3-1 in favor of the Hurricanes. Nylander will get his first goal of the season for the Blue Jackets, getting assists from Roslovic and Boone Jenner, a power play goal, 8 minutes and 41 seconds into that frame. Seth Jarvis would add a late goal for the Hurricanes, getting his 19th of the season from Martinook and Pesky. 4-2 would be the final score in this matchup. So with the Hurricanes' victory, they're sitting at 36-18-6, second in that Metropolitan Division. As for the Blue Jackets, they now are 19-30-10. I'm sure the season can't end soon enough to see where they land with the draft pick. Okay. Next matchup took place in Detroit. We had the Red Wings, and they were playing against the New York Islanders. All right, let's take a look and see how this one went. So Brock Nelson would kick things off in the first period for the Islanders with 7 minutes and 49 seconds to go. We could record his 26th goal of the season. Zizekas would increase lead to 2-0, getting a 7th of the year from Pellish and Dobson, and that goal happened with 3 minutes and 42 seconds remaining on the clock. After 20 minutes of play, the Islanders had a 2-0 lead. Olli Maatta would finally get the Red Wings on the board in the second period, 5 minutes and 4 seconds into that frame, recording his 3rd goal of the year from David Perron and Bellino. After 40 minutes of play, the Islanders still had a 2-1 lead. In the third period, Patrick Kane would tie the game up just 10 seconds into that third frame, recording his 13th goal of the year from Larkin and Jeff Petrie. Brock Nelson would give the Islanders a 3-2 lead. That would be his 2nd goal of the game, his 27th of the year from Barzal and Kyle Palmieri, 5 minutes and 4 seconds into that frame, a power play goal to note. Olli Maatta would get his 2nd goal of the game, his 4th of the year from Shane Gothenburg and Daniel Sprong, with 9 minutes and 11 seconds to go in the frame, tying the game up at 3. Matt Barzal would give the Islanders a 4-3 lead, with 6 minutes and 2 seconds remaining on the clock, his 18th of the season, and Pierre Engvall would increase lead to 5-3 with just 36 seconds to go, his 7th of the season from Holmstrom and Zizekas. So 5-3 would be the final score. So for the Islanders, they're sitting at 25-20-19, still out of a playoff spot. As for the playoff spot, the Detroit Red Wings are 33-21-6. They still have the number 1 wild card spot, and it's looking better and better as each day passes that they're likely to return to the postseason for the first time since 2016. All right, the next matchup took place in Tampa Bay, where we had the Lightning. They were playing against the Buffalo Sabres. All right, let's take a look and see how this game went. So Braden Point would kick things off for the Lightning in the first period. Power play goal, his 31st of the season from Kucherov and Victor Hedman, 8 minutes and 12 seconds into that frame. Alex Tuch would tie the game up with about 11 minutes, with about 9 minutes remaining on the clock. That would be his 17th goal of the year. After 20 minutes of play, we were all tied up at 1. Chaffee would give the Lightning a 2-1 lead with 2 minutes and 42 seconds remaining on the clock, his third of the season from Ceranic and Anthony Cirelli. And at that point, it was 2-1 after 40 minutes of play in favor of Tampa Bay. Tage Thompson would tie the game up in the third period with 8 minutes and 27 seconds remaining. His 18th of the season, assisted by Rasmus Dahlin, and that was a power play goal as well. We would need extra time to settle this matchup, and in the overtime frame, the Sabres had a power play, and Rasmus Dahlin would get the game-winning goal, his 15th of the year, assisted by Mittelstadt and Jordan Greenway. So despite the fact they were down 2-1, they were able to tie the game up and win it in overtime. So with the victory, the Sabres are sitting at 28-4, still on the outside looking in when it comes to the postseason. And let's be honest, it's looking extremely bleak this late in the season for them to make a postseason run. As for the Tampa Bay Lightning, despite the loss, they do have the number 2 wildcard spot as we speak, with a record of 32-24-6. All right, the next matchup took place in Toronto, where we had the Maple Leafs, and they were playing against the Arizona Coyotes. Let's take a look and see how this one went. So in the first, Matthew Knies would kick things off for the Blue Shirts with 6 minutes and 56 seconds to go. He would get his 11th goal of the season, assisted by Mitch Marner. After 20 minutes of play, it was 1-0 in favor of the Maple Leafs. Tyler Bertuzzi would increase the lead to 2-0 a minute and 5 seconds into the second period, I should say. His 12th of the year from Lagesson and William Nylander. Austin Matthews would get his 53rd goal of the year, assisted by Nylander and Matthew Knies with 6 minutes and 48 seconds to go, making it 3-0 in favor of Toronto. Alex Kerfoot, a former member of the Maple Leafs, would finally get the Arizona Coyotes on the board, getting his 10th goal of the season, a short-handed goal, I should note, with 5 minutes and 21 seconds to go in the frame. So after 40 minutes of play, it was 3-1 in favor of Toronto. Logan Cooley in the third period would cut the deficit to 3-2, getting his 9th of the season from Machelli and Valimaki. William Nylander would ice the game with exactly a minute to go, getting his 32nd goal of the season, assisted by David Kempf. 4-2 would be the final score at the end of regulation. So with the victory, the Toronto Maple Leafs are sitting at 34-17-8, still sitting third in that Atlantic Division. And with the loss, the Coyotes are 23-31-5. All right, the next match took place between two teams in the Central Division, as we had the Dallas Stars, and they were playing against the Winnipeg Jets. So in the first, Robertson would kick things off for the Dallas Stars, getting his 20th goal of the year from Joe Pavelski, 6 minutes and 52 seconds into that first frame. Speaking of Pavelski, the guy just seems to never age, even though he's up there. He would record his 21st goal of the year from Akpana and Rupen Hintz, and that goal happened with 3 minutes and 19 seconds remaining on the clock. Stan Koven would increase lead to 3-0 with 1 minute and 43 seconds remaining on the clock, his third of the year from Wyatt Johnson and Jamie Benn. After 20 minutes of play, it was 3-0 in favor of Dallas. Nemestega would finally get the Jets on the board in the second period, getting his 7th goal of the season from Ehlers and Pionk, a power play goal to note. In the third period, Rupins would increase the lead to 4-1 with 1 minute and 10 seconds to go, his 24th goal of the season, making it 4-1 in favor of the Stars. So with the victory, Dallas is sitting at 36-17-9, first in that Central Division. And despite the loss, the Winnipeg Jets are second in that same division with a record of 37-16-5. All right, the next matchup we're going to take a look at took place in Nashville. We had the Predators. They were playing host against the Winnipeg Jets, the Minnesota Wild. So in the first period, Dewar would kick things off for the Wild, 9 minutes and 51 seconds of that frame, getting his 9th goal of the year from Duhaime and Ryan Hartman. Trennan would tie the game up less than a minute after that, getting his 10th of the season from Ryan Josi. Smith would give the Predators a 2-1 lead just 8 seconds after Trennan scored. So after 20 minutes of play, it was 2-1 in favor of the Predators. So 3 goals were scored in like 57 seconds. Pretty wild. In the second, Forsberg would increase the lead to 3-1. A power play goal, his 29th of the year from Ryan Josi and Gustav Nyquist. So 40 minutes of play, 40 minutes were in the books, and it was 3-1 in favor of the Predators. Josi would increase the lead to 4-1, a minute 32 seconds into that frame, getting his 15th of the season from Sissons and Cody Glass. Ryan O'Reilly would get on the goal scorer sheet, increasing the lead to 5-1, getting his 21st of the year from Nyquist and Carrier, 8 minutes and 3 seconds into that same period. Ryan McDonald would get his 3rd goal of the year from Evangelista and Sissons, and that goal happened with 6 minutes and 3 seconds remaining on the clock. So despite the fact that the Wild scored the first goal of the game, they gave up 6 straight goals after that, losing this game 6-1. So with the victory, the Predators are sitting at 34-25-2. They currently have the number 2 wildcard spot locked in. And as for the Minnesota Wild, 28-26-6. It's not really looking bleak for them at this point to make the postseason. But again, you start losing games this late in the season, it's sure not going to help your chances of making it. All right, now we're off to Chicago. We have the Blackhawks, and they were playing against the Colorado Avalanche. All right. So Zach Parise would get his 2nd goal of the season for the Colorado Avalanche since being acquired by them, assisted by Jack Johnson, and that goal happened with 2 minutes and 2 seconds remaining on the clock. So after 20 minutes of play, the Avalanche had a 1-0 lead. Ross Colton would increase the lead to 2-0 with a power play goal roughly 7 minutes into that frame, his 13th of the year from Parise and Nathan McKinnon. Parise would again get his 2nd goal of the game, his 3rd of the year from Ryan Johansson and Jonathan Drouin, making it 3-0, 7 minutes and 38 seconds into that frame. And it looked like it was going to be just 3-0 after 20 minutes of play. Devin Taves would increase lead to 4-0 with 2 seconds to go, getting his 11th goal of the year from Rantanen and Makar. In the 3rd period, with 2.5 minutes to go, McKinnon would increase lead to 5-0, getting his 36th goal of the year from Cale Makar. 5-0 would be the final in this matchup. So with the victory, the Avalanche are sitting at 37-19-5, 3rd in that Central Division. And as for the Chicago Blackhawks, as I always say with every video, they still have the worst record in the NHL with a record of 15-40-5. And there's still 22 games left to go in the season, so we'll see how they finish in the last quarter of the year. All right, now we're off to Seattle, where we have the Kraken, and they were playing against the Pittsburgh Penguins. So in the first, Bjorkstrand would kick things off for the Seattle Kraken, getting his 15th goal of the season from Wenberg and Borgen, and that goal happened with 7 minutes and 35 seconds remaining on the clock. There was no scoring in the second, and we have to jump ahead to the 3rd period, where Wenberg would increase lead to 2-0 for the Kraken, getting his 9th of the season from Kailer Yamamoto and Tolvanen, and that goal happened with 4 minutes and 58 seconds to go in the frame. So 2-0 would be the final score in favor of Seattle. So with the victory, the Kraken are sitting at 26-22-11, still on the outside looking in when it comes to postseason. And speaking of outside looking in, that's exactly where Pittsburgh is in the eastern side of things, 27-22-8. All right. Just 2 games left to review from Thursday's action. Next one took place in the Atlantic Division as the Vancouver Canucks, who've been reeling of late, took on the Los Angeles Kings. So in the first, Drew Doughty would kick things off for the Kings, getting his 14th goal of the year from Kevin Fiala and Trevor Moore, and that goal happened with 6 minutes and 41 seconds remaining on the clock. In the second period, just a lone goal to report. Anze Kopitar would not his 18th goal of the year from Byfield and Drew Doughty, 5 minutes and 14 seconds into that second period. After 40 minutes of play, the Kings had a 2-0 lead. Brock Boeser would finally get the Canucks on the board in the third period, 2 minutes and 55 seconds into the frame. His 35th goal of the year from JT Miller and Pius Sutter, a power play goal to note. Speaking of power play goals, Kevin Fiala would get a power play goal of his own, increasingly to 3-1, getting his 18th goal of the year from Kopitar and Drew Doughty. Clark would increase the lead to 4-1, getting his second goal of the season from Byfield and Trevor Lewis, and that goal happened with 7 minutes and 29 seconds to go in the period. Trevor Moore would get on the goal scorer sheet himself, increasingly to 5-1, getting his 23rd of the year from Kevin Fiala, and that goal happened with 4 minutes and 22 seconds remaining on the clock. So the Kings went into Vancouver and had a bit of a statement game, to say the least. 5-1 would be the final score. So with the victory, the Kings are 30-19-10. They still hold down that number one wildcard spot in the Western Conference, and despite the loss, the Canucks are still first in that Pacific Division with a record of 38-17-7. But they've seemed like they've been losing a lot of games lately rather than winning. All right, the last game from Thursday's match-ups took place in California, where we had the Anaheim Ducks as the away team taking on the San Jose Sharks. So Duclair would kick things off for the San Jose Sharks, 2 minutes and 47 seconds into that first period, getting his 12th of the year from Zetterlund and Otiuk. Carlson would tie the game up at 1, getting his 9th of the year from Killorn and Henrique, 3 minutes and 7 seconds in that period. Despite the fact that the Sharks had a power play goal, Leeson would get a short-handed goal for the Ducks, getting his 8th goal of the year, assist by Mintyukov and Radko Gudas. So after 40 minutes of play, it was 2-1 in favor of Anaheim. Killorn would increase lead to 3-1, getting his 8th goal of the year from Adam Henrique and Lindstrom, 5 minutes and 18 seconds into that frame. Mike Hoffman would cut the deficit to 3-2 with a power play goal, a 9th goal of the year from Zetterlund and Michael Granlund. And that goal happened with 9 minutes and 34 seconds to go on the clock. Eklund would tie the game up with a power play goal of his own, getting his 9th of the season from Anthony Duclair and Michael Granlund, and that goal happened with 4 minutes and 20 seconds to go in the frame. Paterno would give the Ducks a 4-3 lead with a power play goal, his 27th goal of the year from Lacombe and Ryan Strome. Adam Henrique would get a power play goal of his own late in that second period, increasing to 5-3, his 17th of the season from Lacombe and Strome, and that goal happened with 1 minute and 19 seconds to go on the clock. So after 40 minutes of play, the Ducks had a 5-3 lead. In the third period, Duclair would get a second goal of the game, a power play goal, his 13th of the season from Granlund and Mike Hoffman, and that goal happened with 9 minutes and 30 seconds to go in the frame, cutting the deficit to 5-4. With just 24 seconds remaining, Ludestrom would get an empty net goal, his 4th of the year, giving the Ducks a 6-4 lead, and that's where we would stand at the end of regulation. 6-4 would be the final score in favor of Anaheim. So with the victory, they're 21-35-3, and with the loss, again for the Sharks, a very long season, 15-38-5. All right, that takes care of my recap from the NHL. As always, if you're new to the channel and you like this type of content, please feel free to hit the sub button. I'd be very grateful and very appreciative. Until next time, take care.